going to start. May I call on Professor Reverend Sawyer to chair this meeting in this session for us. Professor Sawyer is the VC for the University of Sierra Leone. So thank you, Professor. Our panelists are Dr. David Fabo, Professor Francis Siddiqui, represented by Dr. Usu. Okay, and then we have a third, Ms. Court, President of the American Society of Mechanical Engineering. She's here. She'll join us soon. And then we have Professor Elijah Omwenga, who is going to present our policy. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. I'd like to welcome you to day 2 of our COVIDSET. I trust we all had a restful evening and fully invigorated to go through the proceedings of this morning. We are already a bit late, so I will not spend any more time on pleasantries or opening remarks, but to go straight to the book. Our first speaker for this morning is Dr. David Fabo. He's the Group Functional Manager, Refining Technologies Group, Sasol Technology, Sasolburg, South Africa. You're most welcome.
Good morning, colleagues. In line with best practices, just to start with a safety moment. As a parent of being the first speaker in the morning, seeing that most of our colleagues travel from far and away, usually universities and industry companies encourage a safety perspective. So I thought safety and international travel is a relevant topic for such a global audience. And I thought because most of us when we travel, whether on the continent or abroad, we stay in hotels. Just some things in terms of safety, especially in a post-2011 world, to consider that hotels are very difficult to protect more often than not. And large event hotels like this one are good targets where there are many entrances, vehicles are passed close by, unexpected luggage all over the lobby, unknown people at all times, and also underground garages are unsafe. And I think this makes us even more vulnerable, especially with some of the challenges we face in all countries around the world. So here are some few safety tips that I picked up from the internettraveler.com and online magazine. Firstly, whenever you travel, it's advisable that you copy all your credit cards, airline tickets, important documents, front and back. Jewelry and luggage and all valuables should be photographed prior to your trip. It's always advisable to try to get a room near the elevator on the mid-floor that face away from the main entrance. It should be high enough and should be far enough to be safe from a street level or blast. Avoid ground floor rooms if you can. And wherever possible, try to stay on 3rd and 6th floor. The reason is that more often than not, most fire engines do not go higher than these floors. And upon checking in at any hotel, make sure that you identify a fire escape route, check the location of the nearest stairwell and or emergency exit. Keep your doors locked at all times whenever you are in the room. At night, leave a pair of shoes next to your bed in case you leave in a hurry. Keep your room key, wallet, and flashlight close to hand as well. Don't let the front desk attendant, I'm sorry to say this, we are in peaceful Botswana, but it applies to everyone, and publicize your room number. And that's my safety moment. I'll move on to my presentation. Colleagues, it's a great privilege for me to address you this August occasion. I had the privilege of addressing the same conference in 2007 when we were in South Africa. But as I was telling Prof. Otieno, I was wearing a different hat then. I was heading a government agency. Now I've joined the dark side, I'm in the private sector, but still we felt the need to invite me to this conference and it's appreciated. And my presentation will just focus briefly on university-industry collaboration in the case of SASO. But why is this so important? Because I believe, and I think all of us believe, that Africa's growth is real. It's happening, and with all the discoveries from Cape to Cairo in terms of natural resources, there's a need for us to formulate a strategy around how university engage with industry in real time, not about planning, but also implementing things. So this is a case study of how a South African company is engaged with universities in South Africa with the belief that that message will help us in terms of our engagement with other African universities going forward. My presentation will focus on the role of innovation in economic growth, and I'll say a little bit about what SASOL, my employers, do, and then some of the two models that we have in terms of SASOL university collaborations, and some key learnings for both us and hopefully for our colleagues from other African countries, and opportunities for us to improve the engagement. And I hope there are some questions and answers, and I think my contact details are in the conference page. The reason why we innovate, and was addressed yesterday, is that we have to create a competitive advantage. We have to build the barriers to entry. If you innovate, you create better products so that competitors cannot overtake you, and also you have to derive commercial value. As one of the professors yesterday said, that it's one thing to have the mineral resources, but they are processed somewhere else, and then you have to buy them at a higher value. From an institutional point of view, be it research councils or universities, to create new knowledge, to build capacity or capabilities, freedom to disseminate that information as universities, and even better reputational value. The better you do in terms of research and innovation, the better your reputation will be worldwide. And I just wanted to highlight this innovation scorecard because I heard how, in terms of our engagement with Australia and other things, how South Africa is doing well, but unfortunately I have to put a damn script. We're not doing as well as we should in terms of innovation. As you can see, in terms of university-industry collaboration, we are above average, but where we are struggling a lot, as you see with the red mark, is in terms of science, technology, and engineering education, and also in terms of the business environment. It's all well known that by 2017, 2018, Nigeria will overtake South Africa's largest economy. It's a sobering thought for South Africa, but also it highlights the need for us to drive and see how we can engage with universities whenever possible to be competitive. But why the need for university collaborations? Our feeling is that private sector companies cannot do it on their own. Universities are a hotbed for innovation, for research, for independent research, as was highlighted, and hence the whole innovation ecosystem should comprise of academia, industry, research councils in all countries, as was highlighted in the case of Australia. And this has to do with risk sharing and skills development, but also over and above that, the involvement of government is central to the completion of a national system of innovation. Just briefly, before I go into how Sasol collaborated with universities, just some introduction about Sasol. Sasol was founded in 1950. It was a political decision when an oil embargo against South Africa because of apartheid policies forced the government to commercialize the conversion of coal to liquid fuels, transportation fuels. 50, 60 years from now, Sasol is now an integrated energy and chemical company. We are the world's largest producer of synthetic transportation fuels. We convert both natural gas and coal into transportation fuels. We are listed both on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange and the New York Stock Exchange. If you like buying Sasol shares, they are trading at $51 a share as of yesterday. And we employ about 34,000 people on the African continent, in the US, in Europe, in the Middle East, and India and Asia. In terms of our financial highlights, turnover from last year's financial report is the turnover was about $17.8 billion. Our operating profit is about $4.6 billion, and our market capitalization is about $40 billion. So with our contribution to the South African economy, there's a need for Sasol to be seen as a corporate citizen, to contribute to the very same country, not just South Africa, but also Mozambique and other countries where we have a footprint in. And one of the most elegant ways we have found is our university collaborations, because it's at that juncture where, rather than engaging with politicians and kissing up to them, if you engage with academics to look at research opportunities to enhance both society and the company's competitive advantage, you win in terms of goodwill. So Sasol has two university collaboration models, and the reason why we have two is that because of our country's political history, some universities had advanced relative to others. The historical black institution has not been as well funded as white institutions in South Africa. So Sasol, not because of discrimination, but because of the level of development, we had to look at how do we enhance capacity with the traditional historical black institutions because of the segregation policies of the past, and also the more research-intensive historical white institutions. So one of the first initiatives is called the Inzalo Foundation, and what it did we target support for historical black institutions by study grants for black students at these universities. We call them Inzalo Fellows, and then we look at human capacity development, where we enhance the capacity of academics at these institutions. And then wherever possible, Sasol's experts are seconded to the universities. The Research and Development Division, for which I work for, has about 300 PhDs in both sciences and engineering. So those experts can be seconded to our universities to enhance the capacity. And the other issue is to enhance the research infrastructure in collaboration with national government departments. For every rand or dollar that we put at a university, we encourage national departments to meet us halfway. And we found that that kind of partnership actually works. And since its inception, the Inzalo Foundation, that is the first model that we have, is that we found that the number of fellows that we have at our universities have increased to 50 in 2013. And this is just a list of some of the historically black universities that we've helped. They have developed some of our political leaders over the past couple of years. And then we found that the support we provide to the students enable them to finish their degrees in the minimum possible time with minimum effort. And what we've done is, because everything has to be done in small steps, we focus, for example, on chemistry and environmental chemistry research. And as you can see, that the number of students, honors, masters, and PhD at those universities have increased over the past couple of years. And then also the number of, as you can see, there's a huge impact from us in terms of what we do at these universities. The second model that we have is predominantly was focused on historically white institutions which have been integrated now. And the focus was on skills, resource, and research capabilities at these universities. The aim was to actively transform our chemical industry in line with where Sasol is as a company. And the program was started in 2006 with a budget of about $250 million. It was about $40 million then. And at the moment, over $200 million have been spent today. And we support about 10 universities, and we have a hub and spoke model approach where you look at the centers of excellence across the country and provide specific research support for these universities. And there are a number of key areas that we focus on: research grants, which focus on professors, and non-binding grants, which focus on funding students, and also salary subventions, where we top up salaries of academics, especially star academics, to ensure that they stay at those universities. And then also we focus on a lot on infrastructure development, state-of-the-art equipment, and also secondment of SASOL employees in these institutions. And these are just a list of some of the institutions that we have supported over the past 8 or 9 years. We have invested in state-of-the-art infrastructure. This is a world-class microscopy center, which cost about 140 million rand. Both SASOL and the private and government has funded this infrastructure. And the nice thing about it is multi-use. All universities can use it, and the center is situated at one university. So just to conclude, some of the key learnings for university-industry collaborations. Firstly, there should be alignment between what the industry needs and what the university needs. So it's not a master-servant relationship. The university is also making input into what are the research agendas. And then we have to look at industry looks actively at opportunities to collaborate with universities. And then we look at the need to mentor and support young academics to ensure that the capacity is always there. And one of the critical issues working as a private sector company is laboratory safety in terms of research to ensure that the best practices we have in the private sector are transferred to the universities which cooperate. And from a South African point of view, we now have 25 universities, so we're looking at having more integrated framework. All the lessons from the past 10 years as to what we have done, we want to incorporate them into a framework which obviously we like to share with our African partners wherever possible. And then we want to target funding to improve the infrastructure backlog, which affects a lot of universities, both in South Africa and other countries. And then we want to broaden our funding reach. A key issue is we have to leverage our funding from the private sector with what government can provide, so that government feels compelled or encouraged or blackmailed into funding universities. Because if industry puts 50 million rand, the government, rather than spending money on luxury cars, maybe they could divert some of the money to universities. And lastly, better engagement, not just with our national university bodies, but entities like NST, in terms of where their alignment, both from a South Africa or a SADC or even a broader sub-Saharan African context. Obviously, we want to improve, and this is not just for South African postgraduates, but also other African university students who are benefiting from SASOL's postgrad funding to improve the pipeline of Black African postgraduates and academics in line with our country's transformation imperatives. That is my story.
We'd like to thank Dr. David Fowler from SASOL for his presentation on a model for university-industry partnership. Now, the modus operandi for today's presentation, at least plenary, will be 10 minutes, not more than 15, 10 to 15 minutes for each presenter. We'll have all the presentations and then we'll have a Q&A session afterwards. So if you could pen down your various interventions and questions so you can direct them at the various speakers during the Q&A session. Once again, I'd like to thank Dr. Fowler for his presentation. Our next presenter is actually Professor Ogenye Johnny, Dean Faculty of Postgrad at Abakaliki in Nigeria. And he's going to give us a presentation on behalf of Professor Francis Edike, who is the Vice Chancellor of Ebonyi State University, Nigeria. And Professor, you have the floor.
morning all. The topic is Nigeria University Training and Spin-offs, Implication for Sustainable Development. The paper was actually written by Professor Isaac Osakwe and Professor Francis Idike, but I'm presenting it on their behalf. Now we know that institutions have continued to play a significant role in development of science, engineering, and technology potentials in Africa since their inception. The challenges of development in the 21st century call for a review of our modus operandi if these institutions are to still be relevant. Higher education sector is not left out in this reform agenda. In Nigeria, sustainable development requires the availability of competent and committed human resources. Using education as a tool, the government hopes to produce manpower that will serve in different capacities and contribute positively to the nation's socio-economic and political development. Now most of the graduates from our institutions find it difficult to get good jobs. Even those that get jobs are underemployed. According to Babalola 2007, there is a mismatch between teaching in our educational institutions and the needs of the labor market, which is a very, very big issue, not only in Nigeria, I'm sure also across Africa. As the graduates from tertiary institutions have acquired skills which are not demanded by the labor market. That means universities are expected to now become targeted. This era of globalization and competitive market economy, higher education should be able to meet the developmental needs of countries, both locally and internationally. In this paper, initiatives from government, university, and university spin-offs in the educational sector are examined. Also, a case study on Ebonyi State University Nigeria spin-offs initiative is here discussed. Now, looking at the education in the higher university in the higher education process, training is the process of learning the skills that one needs to do a job or profession. Spin-off, on the other hand, is incidental result of benefit, especially from technology. In the developed countries, there is growing synergy between science, technology, and industry. And then the case of Sasol, as mentioned earlier, is a very welcoming one. But other countries are yet to follow suit. Developed countries have moved their educational frontiers from knowledge economy to knowledge-based economy by their understanding of the value chain dynamics of science, technology, and innovation. Robinson 2001 argued that university education lacking technology transfer is not only inadequate, but it is also meaningless, as traditional classroom teaching and learning is too static for the 21st century digital economies. Thus, it is not a question of whether universities should engage in technology transfer, but how. It's obvious from the aforementioned that knowledge economy alone cannot change the economy and hence the living condition of the people without the component of innovation. This has led to the challenge by stakeholders of the relevance of current university system, producing high quality publications, so much of PhDs, and while poverty continues on the rise. Now, looking at spin-off as a transfer vehicle, the term spin-off or USOs will refer to creation of new industry, new companies, firms, business, and then exploiting the commercially some knowledge, technology, or research results developed within the university. It brings about creation of new companies, And these companies are subsidiaries of the, and are autonomous. It has to do with creating from the university a very independent company that makes their own profit, but to the advantage of the university. This also exploit the knowledge produced by academic activities, and then the profit, it is profit-oriented. Hence, university's pivotal role is to assemble different groups of people or stakeholders within knowledge ecosystem and to regulate their interaction via growth. It is through knowledge ecosystems that USOs are formed, and it is also through these ecosystems that value addition to technology innovation takes place. Now, looking at the government initiatives in Nigeria, we look at the national policy of Nigeria as of 1989. It states clear that government will support closer links between universities, industries, and various research councils. It says the government will encourage locally based industries to develop direct links and research institutes and universities to facilitate research into their products and problems. And the policy further stipulated that a greater proportion of educational expenditure will be devoted to science and technology. Now, the initiatives of Nigerian government so far, very interesting one, has been the one that is called UWIN, the Youth Enterprise Development Initiative, to create 50,000 jobs. Young people are expected at this period, since I'm sure last year, to send in proposals about anything, any business from what they have studied, and then the government will sponsor that proposal. And that has helped create so much job opportunities for young university leavers, and then also help in production that the country is very, very high. Additionally, the government has this initiative of NOTA Patent, which is the National Office of Technology Acquisition and Promotion, NOTA, which provides patent support service to SMEs, universities, and researchers. And this helps them, it assists the investors in patenting their inventions, and both at home and abroad. Also, the government in the past couple of years have come up with this policy of introducing establishing entrepreneurship development centers in all the universities. And as a matter of fact, all universities in Nigeria now are meant to run entrepreneurship courses, both as general GST courses and also as degree courses. In that way, students or graduates have hands-on training on how to start their own business and make their own money without depending on employment. And in such a way too, they create employment for others. Educational Tax Fund, or they now call it Tech Fund, has been a very major stride of the Nigerian government since 1993. In 1993, it started with ETF, and 2011, they now rechristened it Tech Fund. And from the time it started up till 2010, the Tech Fund has received 463 billion naira, which is about $3.1 billion from tax given by multinational companies. And then from 1999 to 2008, about 72 billion naira has been given to the universities. These are used for infrastructure development, research grants, and then research assistance. And then in 2009, the Nigerian government gave close to $0.2 billion for research, and it has helped so much in research terrain in Nigeria. Now, the networking opportunities, government also goes out there to hold seminars, conferences, exhibitions, and this is a forum where all universities, industries come together and then have some close links. Now, university initiatives at exploiting research and innovation. We have what we call the Students' Industrial Work Experience Scheme, which is the CWEX, where the students, after a time, may have about 1 year or 6 months time in the industry. The university community linkage is a very important one, though this has not been very, very outstanding because since the university has 3 appendages, which is the teaching, learning, and the community development. The aspect of community development is yet to be developed, but most universities in Nigeria are now catching up with that. And then technology villages have also been on the rise. Some universities and government together are working on developing technology villages. Now, the Nigerian university system and the new challenge. One of the challenges of the Nigerian university system is that we base most on the certificate and not on the holder of the certificate. And so some graduates come out and have not requisite knowledge to implement what they have studied. For Ebonyi State University and our spin-offs, the leadership style in the university has been a very important one for us. And as a matter of fact, a major success for any system depends on the leadership style of the management team of that organization. For Ebonyi State University, the physical discipline, and then the drive of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Idike, to make sure that companies are developed in the university, and then researchers are sponsored and researchers are encouraged to do more, have helped the university system in our initiatives. We have the Building Material Research Development Center, where materials like rice husk that is produced generally in Ebonyi State is now used to produce tiles, to produce ceiling boards, and to produce some of the building materials, which is now at the moment commercialized. The Biotechnology Research Development Center of Ebonyi State University has been on the forefront of developing seeds that are drought resistant. I'm sure in the topic in my presentation later in the day on climate change, I will dwell more on that. And then the agro-based company of Ebonyi State University that has helped in producing seeds for rice seeds for the consumption or for the use of farmers has also been a very important one for Ebonyi State University. The way forward, we are thinking that the sensitization of the public sectors and other stakeholders should be a very important one. Monitoring and interaction by role models is so important. Those who have made it are expected to be invited by the universities to talk about their experience, thereby encouraging all other young ones to follow suit. The linkage of the university and then the industry and community I mentioned earlier is a good one. Center of Excellence should be something to aspire. In Nigeria, about several universities in 2009 up till 2012 got the World Bank Center of Excellence Award. And like I just heard last night, the African Center of Excellence Center of Excellence project, it was announced, I'm sure yesterday, and 7 universities in Nigeria have been approved for African Center of Excellence, 2 in Ghana and then 1 in, I'm sure, Cote d'Ivoire. So establishment of technology parks are also important. In conclusion, there are several stakeholders with specific interests and expectations in university education, training, and research. For universities to spearhead meaningful industrial development within their respective countries, some initiatives must be taken by the government and the universities of such countries. University spin-offs as a vehicle of research transformation is still at the infancy stage in Nigerian universities, but the stage is being set for its growth to the next level. All things being equal, Nigerian universities are having a closer tie between themselves and the government, but a weak linkage with the industry. This needs to be strengthened more. Universities across the developing world must play a pivotal role in the knowledge transfer process and the establishment of centers of excellence. This has strengthened. Now, government must build and equip world-class universities, training and research institutions to offer science and technology disciplines that match those provided in the best institutions in the world. A stronger linkage between university and the industry in Nigeria is advocated for, and the establishment of knowledge park centers or villages where university spin-offs will be translated from knowledge economy to knowledge-based economy. The missing link is the failure of government to provide enabling environment and facilities that will enable these scientists to perform and put to practice what they have learned. Thank you for listening.
We'd like to thank Professor Johnny for making that presentation. He's on behalf of his colleagues. We've seen quite a number of models, government initiatives, and again similar to SASO university initiatives. But I'm quite impressed about the spin-offs and R&D in universities. And I think these are areas we want to follow. The TED funding, and again like the GET funding in Ghana, these have been models that many universities are trying, many governments are trying to pursue in ensuring a flow of funding for university education. Thank you very much for the presentation. Our third presenter this morning is, well, the name is a bit of a mouthful, Miss Copy.
You're doing very well.
I'm struggling. She's the president of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. You are most welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Now I can see you. Let me start by telling you that how pleased I am being here. My roots are African. I was born and grew up in Egypt. I spent 2 of my adult lives in Nigeria. I just visited South Africa, so I'll add Ghana to my wish list to make sure that I fit perfectly into the family. I'm sorry I missed your first day of meetings. I heard you had an excellent day, and I'm looking forward to spending today and the rest of the conference with you. I'm here representing ASME and sharing with you what ASME has to offer in our perspectives and what we believe should be considered in the future to have better mechanical engineers, and to share with you what we have experienced in the past, the studies we have done. We believe that some of the problems are global, and we all live in a global environment where many people and many companies, many employers compete for talents. And we also believe that the solutions have to come from the communities and from the companies and from the people who lead the program. So where we believe that some of the problems are global, we strongly believe that the solutions have to be local and adapted to the local needs. This is my name, which sometimes I have difficulty saying. It is a mouthful. So for abbreviation, you can just call me Madiha, whichever part of it you find easier to pronounce. I appreciate the experience of being here, and let me speak a bit about how we can tie engineers' educations with innovations and entrepreneurships, which is actually the theme of what we'll be discussing and the part of it. ASME has created and offered a study that we refer to as ASME Vision 23. And what we have tried to do is to see what kind of gap we have existing between what universities produce as mechanical engineers and what the market needs. You want to ask the question, what do you want the African workforce to be doing in the future? So our study, which was initiated in 2008, allowed us to define and to determine what's needed to be done to transform engineering education in response to pressing trends that are profoundly changing the world. Engineering globally is changing in terms of expectations and boundaries. Engineers are dealing with new knowledge. a blurring of disciplinary lines, increased professional expectations, and greater opportunities. The outcome of the study, which was based on research and regional forums and leadership summits, including a survey of more than 2,500 engineers, educators, and early careers engineers. The survey focused on the skill of entry-level mechanical engineers graduates. And what the aim of Vision 2030 is to define the knowledge and skills that graduates should have to be globally successful, to provide recommendations for mechanical engineers education curriculum, and last but not least, to facilitate systemic changes to allow us to reach this objective. Some of the questions that were asked: how do we attract, educate, and retain a diverse workforce? How do we give students an authentic engineering experience? And how do we connect the curriculum to specific industries? The charts you have in front of you shows actually some of the weaknesses and some of the gaps from different perspectives. So you can see in the chart, the way it's presented, that sometimes the gap is very close. So both educators, engineers, and managers share the same perspectives on how they judge where engineers fit in the different areas, whereas some other ones, you see that the gap is huge. So let me concentrate on some of them, and let's look at what we consider to be the top areas that need strengthening. The first one is about practical experience, how things are made and work. And there is a huge gap between this, so managers see it in different ways than students and educators. The second one is how we improve or how we judge the level and skills of communications of graduate engineers. And that's another area where we have different perspectives, no matter where we are coming from. We have also some information about the overall system perspectives and how managers see it compared to how educators and engineers. As I mentioned, where the bars are equal, it's almost a balance from all three sides, but we need to look at some of these in a deeper way and try to analyze and see what we can do better and what we can recommend to have a better suited graduate engineers that are ready for practice and ready to face the challenges of our global environment today when they practice engineering. We looked at all of this when we are saying we are focusing on some of them and we are making some recommendation that needs to be considered, and the problems are the same. So when we look and judge and when we studied the North American educational system, many of the issues we realize, and from what I heard from the previous presentation, are shared by other communities and by other parts of the world. Our first recommendation is actually to produce richer practice-based engineering experience for students. Today, in the curriculum and in the engineering program, we focus on engineering projects only in the last year of the engineering curriculum. What we recommend here, that we believe that students need richer practice-based engineering experience. And what is needed is a design-inspired approach where students are involved in design projects all 4 years of their program, not only the last year. We would like to see design projects in all grades. We believe this is why people become engineers and why they want to be problem solvers. So they need to be more focused. I am sorry, I don't think I'm aligning the slides with my speech, so I apologize for that. I'll try to catch up. So we need to have collaboration between industry and between the educators who are more the academic part of it to come and reach this solution. We are recommending also assessment-based courses to be introduced in the curriculum. And